Hi, good evening, everyone. I have Antonio Viñal with us, which is a senior partner of AVCO Legal Lisbon. And I think everyone has been asking a lot of questions, especially with the recent announcements that were made by the Prime Minister. And I think we wanted to address it and give you an opportunity and insight on what our legal advisors have to say. Antonio, perhaps you could enlighten a little bit on why this is happening and why now.
Sure. Thank you, Jamie. Well, why this and especially why now, that could abate to different factors, external and internal. External, there has been some pressure of late from the European Union with regard to Golden Visa programs. And recently, we learned that Ireland shut their own Golden Visa program. And also, from a purely internal Portuguese perspective, there has been some political unrest on certain hot topics, I would say, such as housing, education, healthcare. And this is a convenient diversion in the sense that everyone's attention has now shifted focus to the proposal that was submitted by the Council of Ministers this last Thursday.
So what do we know so far from the outcome of the press conference that took place last week?
Well, in terms of Golden Visa, very little. In fact, what is up for public review and which is, of course, public and everyone can comment on, and I would encourage people to do so. I will, of course, do so, put in my 2 cents myself, is just a very simple PowerPoint with a lot of issues that pertain mostly to the residential real estate industry and the purpose that this government has to create more of an offer, an accessible offer for locals and especially younger generations and affordable housing in general. So until that happens, they've come up with this PowerPoint, and there is very little reference on the Golden Visa. Essentially 2 points. 1, termination of the program, and number 2, the renewals or future renewals, and the only conditions that exist or that have been suggested so far regard the obligation to live in the property the investor has purchased, or that property would have to be allocated to the long-term rental market. There are serious doubts in the legal community as to the constitutionality of these measures because this would involve a large degree of retroactivity. So meaning that those who enter the program at one point in the past should be allowed to continue the program with the exact same rules that were in force when they entered the program. So there is some concern, again, within the legal community, because we believe that this PowerPoint was not thought through very well, and there was very little legal support that the Portuguese government entertained before actually putting together this proposal. So essentially, what do we know? Well, we know, number 1, and I think this is very important to dispel the notion that some media has passed along that the program has ended. The program, as of today, has not ended. Anyone who would like to submit their application can do so in the same way as 7 days ago, 1 month ago, or 6 months ago. So there is no change in that sense. What can we expect moving forward? Well, as I mentioned, this document, which is nothing more than a PowerPoint at this stage, is up for public review, and it's accessible online. Anyone can make comments, and it will stay that way until March 10th. Then it is expected that on March 16th, the Council of Ministers will convene again, and the final proposal will be fleshed out. Now, this proposal will not be effective on that date. That is a proposal that needs to go through Parliament. Any amendment of the law has to go through proper legal channels. Rule of law naturally must prevail. And the only thing that we would not know at this point is how quickly these amendments will actually be passed in Parliament, because that will depend on a number of factors, not least of which how congested the agenda might be. So according to the number of bills that would have to be passed in the next few weeks or months, well, that would obviously have an impact on the speed with which the amendment to the Portuguese immigration law will take place. And even then, there might or might not be a grace period, meaning when the law is published in the Portuguese official gazette, there will usually be a provision that will determine when the new law, the new amendments will enter into force. That might happen immediately, or it might take 3 months, 6 months, who knows. The last major amendment that took place in February of 2021, we benefited from a grace period until the end of December 2021, which meant that any application that was filed until December 31st of 2021 enjoyed the prevalent conditions and rules that existed at the time. So until, again, the final proposal is approved, that proposal is passed on to the Portuguese Parliament, it must be discussed. Of course, any political parties that are represented in Parliament might make their own suggestions. Not to forget, of course, that the current government has a majority in Parliament, so they might steamroll the whole thing. We don't know how open, how flexible they will be. Nevertheless, discussion should ensue, and then the final bill will be eventually passed, published in the official gazette, and then there might or might not be a grace period. And we cannot say at this point whether there will be or there won't, and if there will be, how long that grace period will be. Again, reflecting on past amendments, 2021, we had almost a full year to adapt and to continue processing applications from clients, from investors, right up until the very end of the year.
So I think I can more or less conclude based on what you've mentioned, that basically investors may still have a little bit window of time to be able to submit their applications. Then there's also another question from my existing clients who are also a little bit concerned whether the rules have changed and whether their golden visa has been affected, especially those who haven't even done their biometrics yet. And perhaps you could shed some light on this.
Yes, anybody who has entered the program at this stage, and by entered, I mean submitting their application. And of course, as we know, the first step, the first phase is always the online application. Anyone who has already done that, that person is well in the program and therefore would not have to fear cancellation of the program, whether it happens next month or in 3 months' time or whenever it might be. Okay, they are well in the program, and the rules will apply in terms of family reunification, whether they've done it or whether they will do it later on. That will continue to be the case.
Okay, that's great to know. And is there any restriction as well for new applicants in terms of what they can invest in, considering that there was a mention about renewals and that they have to be for a long-term lease in that sense? So what's your take on that in terms of the type of investment that will still be eligible until they change the law?
Sure. Well, again, we have barely 2 lines on a PowerPoint to try to make sense of. And these 2 lines seem to refer only to residential investment. And as we know, of course, Golden Visa program allows many different types of investment: commercial properties, funds, donations to Portuguese artistic cultural heritage. There's a very long list, as anybody who has been in contact knows. But again, I would find it very hard to extend those 2 sentences in a PowerPoint to all the other investment options. And because this measure was included in a program designed to create an offer in the housing market, it would seem to affect only residential properties. Having said that, I still find it hard that they will go through with it, because these new conditions affect people that have already invested, that are already in the program, that of course had not only expectations, but the legal certainty that they would be able to renew without any conditions. So it is early to say how this will evolve, or if the government will eventually take another view, because what could happen is that this kind of measure be contested on a constitutional level.
All right, then. Thank you so much for the clarity that you have given us. I'm sure this will provide a lot more comfort compared to the original news and the media that's been circulating and all the speculations that's been going around. Thank you so much again for your time, Antonio, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Just one more thing for people who might be sitting on the fence. Again, if you want to be part of the program, you can still do so. The rules have not changed. These are the same rules that existed 1 week ago and 6 months ago. The only thing to be mindful of at this point in time is speed. And by speed, I mean having all your KYC document ready, having your funds ready. So, because obviously things will take a little time in terms of opening a bank account. So if you're still sitting on the fence and wondering whether you can do it, you can, but all parties involved would need to work in close collaboration to make it happen.
All right, then. Thank you so much again for your time, and I hope you have found this session informative for all. Thank you.
Thank you, James.